Hello. Fossil fuels are harming the environment greatly for many, many decades, especially during the COVID pandemic, with everyone stuck at home. The energy usage rates have gone through the roof. Imagine a day when you're impotently witnessing your loved ones gasping for oxygen. This is the fate of using fossil fuels as an energy source. Anticipating situations like this, the EU in 2003 provided a report to adopt a different energy strategy: hydrogen fuel cells. They believe that these are the vision of the future, the most beneficial for mankind. But before we go into that, let me just give you some background information. Firstly, energy is the root of today's society and economy. Everything we do on a daily basis, and I mean everything, requires energy. Even taking a shower requires energy. Worldwide demand for energy is growing at an average rate of 1.8% per annum in just fossil fuels. And so, the reserves of fossil fuel are diminishing. And because of this, they will be increasingly expensive in the future. I remember a friend of mine who visited a slum in Mumbai, India, called Dwarka. She said people don't even have the basic amenity of electricity. The reason being that there isn't enough electricity to supply every single person there. However, just 5 streets away, there was an apartment where everyone had electrical supply, and there was a considerable amount of overuse of electricity. A long term dynamic strategy is required which addresses and accommodates the needs of the future. This should address both the energy supply and demand while taking into account the efficiency of fuel production, transmission, and distribution. For many years, people have used different renewable energy sources, such as solar panels, to decrease the impact of fossil fuels in the short term. But in the long term, an energy strategy is required to solve the energy crisis. To address this, the EU proposed that a hydrogen fueled economy is the best for mankind. But panels could be a better alternative. What do you think about it? I'll address it later on. So, from the idea of hydrogen as fuel comes hydrogen fuel cells. So, what is a hydrogen fuel cell? A hydrogen fuel cell converts chemical energy stored in bonds in molecules into electrical energy. It only uses oxygen and hydrogen. Let me clarify the mechanism of a hydrogen fuel cell with a simple analogy. Let's let's take a car, which is a hydrogen fuel cell, which is also known as PEM, proton exchange membrane. Imagine a household battery with a positive and a negative terminal. So you can look at the image for reference. The moment when a charged particle, electrons, are produced inside the battery, it travels through an external circuit from the negatives to the positive end. This produces electricity. However, the quantity of electricity produced is not sufficient enough to run the car. This is where a catalyst comes in: platinum nanoparticles in carbon paper. This catalyst is equipped into the battery to increase electricity production. Hydrogen, unlike fuel, is not something that can just be dug up. So, where is it found? Is it from the air we breathe? No. Hydrogen can be extracted from two sources: renewable and non renewable. These have to go through many processes to make the hydrogen. Renewable sources of energy produce hydrogen with zero pollutants. However, hydrogen production is still mainly reliant on non renewable sources because of the higher efficiency compared to renewable sources. As we know what a hydrogen fuel cell is, let's talk about why the EU says it's the next best alternative energy source. Society today depends on an uninterrupted supply of electricity, which in the future will become concentrated in a small number of countries, creating the latency for geopolitical and price instability. Hydrogen solves this problem as it opens up access to a wide range of energy sources, including fossil fuels, nuclear energy, and other renewable sources of energy that are widely available. You might think, oh, fossil fuels are being used, so it'll cause global warming and climate change. That isn't necessarily true. Hydrogen can also be made from fossil fuels with CO2 capture and sequestration to eliminate greenhouse gas emissions. The only byproducts of it are water and heat. Due to the large amount of heat produced in a stationary hydrogen fuel cell, energy efficiency levels are greater than 80%. To put this into context, fossil fuels have an energy efficiency about 35%. Additionally, economic growth in many countries has not necessarily been linked with growth in energy demand. Hydrogen fuel cells solve this as they produce high-quality employment opportunities from strategic R&D to production and craftsmen. Hydrogen fuel cells have a lot more benefits and seem like the perfect future. You would think so listening to me so far. Well, not so fast on that. The hydrogen produced is stable to be used at low temperatures and pressures. Storage technologies to fulfill these conditions cost a lot of money and maintenance. Additionally, the use of hydrogen fueled transport is dependent on the successful development of an affordable and accessible refueling infrastructure. Currently, only a few very expensive hydrogen refueling stations exist around the world. In the UK, only 8 refueling stations are present. I remember that I was once in London. I was walking around Hyde Park, where, out on the road, I saw a hydrogen refueling station. It caught my eye immediately. It was the first one I had ever seen. I went up to see what was going on. Surrounding it, I saw so many people with their cars waiting to be charged. This experience of mine made me realize how much more time consuming a hydrogen refueling station is than a conventional petrol station. Not only that, approximately 30 to 60 grams of platinum is needed for the catalyst in the hydrogen fuel cell. To put it into context, platinum is three times more expensive than gold for half the carat. In my opinion, I don't think changing to hydrogen fuel cell is the most beneficial step forward for mankind. I know that there is a limited amount of fossil fuels present in the world, but using hydrogen fuel cells is not feasible in terms of cost and storage. All the economic prosperity mentioned by the EU report only refers to the long-term vision to bring this idea to fruition. So, what other alternatives do we have in the near midterm? An alternative is solar energy through solar panels. Do you know that 65% of Iceland's electricity is supplied from solar panels? Because Iceland realized that solar panels are extremely efficient and cost effective than hydrogen fuel cells. Countries and households around the world use solar panels as they provide a lot of energy and can be easily set up compared to hydrogen fuel cells. Solar panels can be much more accessible for everyone in the world if the government provides subsidy. Solar panels are extremely cheap compared to any other energy source. Just think about how much of the energy we use in our homes contributes to greenhouse gases. By just adopting to solar panels, we can eliminate air pollution permanently and minimize overcrowding of metropolitan areas. I do think many of you here would have tuned into the NPR podcast by Engines of Our Ingenuity on life in the energy capital. The podcast presents to the world that the saving of our environment should not be put aside for pandemics such as COVID. I believe that some of you here are from Houston. Look back into the intermingling nature and industry of Houston. We work to keep the environment shimmering and the industry running with energy. However, the energy, if it is fossil fuels, will lead to the extinction of the glamorous environment that is Houston. I believe that if every single one of us steps in and uses solar panels, we can easily decrease the usage of fossil fuels by a great deal. As William Blake said, this is not the forum to tackle those issues, but tackle them we must. Thank you.